What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoundHound. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoundHound is down 4.26%, 981 the low, 1052 the high. So absolute crazy day. In my opinion, this kind of spike up right here, even though it was rather short-lived, that was market makers covering a lot of those options from last week. But today it's just piggybacking off of Nvidia. And the way I know today's somewhat unjust is, interestingly enough, just by looking at what shorts are doing. Right now, shorts are returning 165,000 shares. So in the past, shorts always just double down all the time with SoundHound. In the first half of the day, they taper off near the second. So when it comes down to what shorts are doing, they feel like today's pullback isn't really just, and they're just sitting back and letting the market do its thing. Market is somewhat torn this morning, and you do have this data that came out, retail sales, a lot lower than the forecast. So actual came in at 0.2, forecast of 0.5. So when it comes to this negative data, the market is taking it as a inverse. So this is why you see a lot of growth stocks higher today, because now the optimism for a rate cut for the June 18th meeting and onwards did go up. So that's what the market really is wanting, is rate cuts. And previously it was supposed to be in like Q3, tail end of Q3. So the fact that it's now June is kind of a good thing. We'll just have to wait and see, but no change for the March 19th or the May 7th meeting. Those have kind of stayed still, but this is, you're kind of torn ultimately on just what is happening or what is next for the broader market. And as you can kind of see right here, this is some expectations from institutions for 2025. So there is a little bit of a divide. So I think as a consensus, nobody is anticipating negative growth for this year, but you do see some slowing, more specifically from Stifel, RBC, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, some bullish ones out there, Oppenheimer and Wells Fargo, so 7,100 and 7,000. So pretty good stuff for that. But again, I think the data, this type of data, is spooking the market, because if Powell comes out and says, hey, like, you know, the economy is strong, but we're not going to have any rate cuts, blah, 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 that might really take this and factor this in for face value, not any rate cuts, and really cause a push down in the broader market. So when it comes to short turning, I think as of right now, that's a pretty good benchmark to insinuate that it's unjust. Today, there isn't any news from SoundHound itself, no SEC filings. They did post this on social media roughly 20 minutes ago or an hour ago, and just saying that they're at the NVIDIA GTC 2025 this week. Even though they're not presenting, they do have a fairly large booth, so most likely they'll be participating in that capacity, and they'll be also doing some demos at the Oracle booth. So I think that's kind of a good thing, but nonetheless, I think it should be a crazy week for any AI/tech stocks, because Keynote is coming out March the 18th. You have exhibits 18th to the 21st, workshops 16th to the 20th. And so we already do know that the market values what Jensen says, because even just in the past, he stated like, hey, quantum isn't anywhere close to where the market's feeling. Quantum stocks went down like 30% that day. So should be a crazy, crazy week for, like I said, AI and whatever else. But I think regardless of if a lot of analysts are starting to forecast slowing in the broader market, SoundHound is good. SoundHound, regardless of a bullish market expansionary stage or contraction, it should do fairly well, as it aims at increasing efficiency. I've brought that up time and time again. A lot of people just focus on how much SoundHound is burning through, not on what they can do for the market. But once again, what do I know? So I just want to play 1 minute of this for those of you that are curious on what is essentially the market is feeling about these retail sales. But after that, I'll go over options and various things like that.
On this number today that you would tie to that?
Maybe, but I think this is the sort of print that markets tend to hate, that economists love, and that makes markets hate economists, because you have to think about it in a broader context. I thought a lot of how Steve Liesman characterized things was right. there's some payback now for last month's weakness, but last month's weakness was partly a payback from Q4 strength. Look, we ended the year with the economy in solid shape, with the consumer in really good shape, but we've been saying for a long time things are going to slow down this year. I think the market got over its skis by over-indexing to the January print. I think the relief people are feeling now makes some sense, but I think people should be too cautious not to overdo it. This is just a lot of noise month to month in an overall view where we're just going to be slower this year than we were last year.
So yeah, that's pretty much a good breakdown of a lot of the recent data. So let me know your general thoughts on that. So even though SoundHound does really increase efficiency on a lot of different spectrums, it might just get, unfortunately, just dragged down with the broader market not really pricing in the full potential of what SoundHound can do. But looking at options, you have 1.62 million in calls, 718,000 in puts. 45% of all the options being done today are optimistic in nature. So generally, I like to see that type of information when SoundHound's pulling back and you see bullish options. That also is another good sign that big money feels like it's not really justified of a pullback. So let me know your kind of viewpoint on that. Of the call options that are being purchased, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 12 to 12.50. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 9, so more of a full breakdown. Some other data points that could really move the market, as what I mentioned yesterday. So you have housing data Tuesday, and I believe also on Thursday, but the interest rate, that is what is going to move the market and what Powell says afterwards. But aside from that, these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So it looks as though big money is selling. Every single one of these transactions is a sell. You can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. And even aside from that, though, the frequency is very, very low. So big money is actually taking a step back, not really buying into the momentum of many other stocks, or just not really buying the SoundHound dip, unfortunately. But these are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool above $100,000. So you are seeing quite a lot here, still in comparison to a normal day like last week. Definitely, it's a night and day difference. Not in a positive way though, but with it at 988, it is still trading between this pivot and this S1. So 887 is going to be that next strong support. And potentially, if you're looking at averaging down, that might be a good place to do it, because when that was tested, I think like 3 or 4 times over the last 2 weeks, for the most part, it has really bounced off of that. So I think that is a very strong support going forward. So just watch for 887. Aside from that, no new analyst ratings, nothing like that. It is right now above that ALMA of $9.34. Aside from that, though, still above that 200-day moving average, so that's going to be $8.39. So technicals don't look good whatsoever, and because of this recent move higher, stochastic RSI is showing that it is getting kind of overbought, as crazy as that sounds. So let me know your thoughts on SoundHound. Are you a buyer today? Are you kind of panicking? Are you like, what's your general thoughts? And like I said, I think a lot of the economists out there and analysts are starting to look at the true data and just piece things together, jump to conclusions of just that we're slowing. So do you think that the actual economy is slowing? Like, what's your kind of 2 cents on all that? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and give kick-ass buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Even over the weekend, stated that crypto was going to run, I think it was like 10% up to Saturday afternoon. Lo and behold, that's exactly how it played out. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you guys watching.